This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs. Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we're going to go over the Blue Flare archetype that's coming out in BT10. It is the other DigiXros archetype from the set. There's also another DigiXros archetype, but I think this is the second most popular one, behind Shoutmon, of course, and it's really cool. It's a little bit more, I'd say, flexible in some things. Like the DigiXros is less, you don't need as many targets for it, and it's kind of like a smaller archetype in general, but it does get a lot of benefits, and the gameplay is a little bit different. There's a lot of ways that it can stun. It can be offensive and defensive at the same time, and it really just kind of reminds me of Blue Hybrid in a little bit of a way, but not maybe as consistent, which is probably good, but it is kind of cool kind of how the whole archetype works. So we're going to go over the cards for it from the set, as well as an example deck list at the end for you guys who need one, but we're just going to start with it. So rookies, real quick, this deck does super duper well if you have Blue Komon, which is this promo right here that we don't know when/if we're getting it for North America. It was in the BT10 meta for Japan. I'm just gonna say we're gonna get it. I don't know how or when, but it's so good for this when we're needing to find requirements for our DigiXros, being able to just draw 2 off this and have another rookie that we get to our hand, since we don't actually have a lot of them, is a really good ad for this deck. If you can't run it, that's too bad. It does really, I think, hurt the consistency of this deck compared to other security rookies, which stinks, but it's definitely an ad. But we're also going to talk about the Gausmon. It's just a 1k rookie. On deletion, may play 1 level 4 Digimon with Blue Flare from its traits from your hand suspended without paying its memory costs. And which are those? Well, I'm glad you asked, because here they are right here. There are 3 champions. There is a Greymon, a Deckardramon, and a male Birdramon. All of them are pretty unique in their own sense. They also all have on plays, which are fantastic, and they also have on deletion save, which just means that sure, you play them in suspended, which means you can't attack with them. If you like, they're just vulnerable, I guess, because none of them have rush. But it does also mean that if they do get KO'd or deleted, you're able to save them under a tamer if you have one, which is quite nice. But all of them are good. Greymon, just on play, reveal top 4 cards, add 2 cards with Blue Flare in the traits among them to your hand, place the remaining at the bottom of your deck. And if you have Kiriha, which is the tamer for the archetype in play, return 1 Metal Greymon from your trash to your hand instead, which is fantastic. Being able to do this to, like, Metal Greymon is kind of like the win condition in this deck a lot of the time, so being able to find one to do and go into another one later in the game is good. On deletion save, as we said. Also, when attacking, once return, if this Digimon has Blue Flare in its traits and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, you get to unsuspend this Digimon. And you will see, like this, that's kind of like the whole archetype. Either your opponent has to have 2 Digimon in play to get the most of your effects, which obviously your opponent can play around, but in this meta specifically, there is a lot of boards that are going wider than taller, like we've been seeing in the BT9 meta, so it is easier to play into, but at the same time, your opponent does have an opportunity to play around it if they know what they're doing, so you do have to kind of be aware of that. Then there's Deckardramon. This is just drawing cards, like decks in the name, so you know that draw power is happening for it. But on play, draw 1, and then for each one of your opponent's Digimon, you get to draw another one. So normally that means you're drawing at least 2 cards, if not more, and you can just hard cast this for 5 to draw 2. People hard cast Cordramon or like Zudomon and BT1 to draw 2, so it's great. On deletion, you get to save it as well, and then all turns when your opponent has 2 or more Digimon play, you get plus 1k DP, which is nice. Not super duper needed, but it is nice. And then there's also male Birdramon. So on play, if you have your Kiriha Tamer in play, you can return Metal Greymon for your trash to your hand. So similar to the Greymon effect. But if you do not have a Kiriha in play, you place 1 from your hand. You play 1 from your hand with paying its memory cost. So for 5, you get to play a Digimon for free, or a Digimon with a tamer for free, which is, I guess, just 1 more memory than just hard casting the tamer as it is. So that's fine, especially because that can mean you can attack with it, and then you can DigiXros afterwards, even if it dies. So that's very good. And also, when attacking once per turn, this Digimon has Blue Flare in its traits, and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, one of your opponent's Digimon can attack or block until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that is kind of good too. That's kind of like the stunning thing we're talking about, and we'll go into our level 5s, which are our DigiXros kind of targets there. So Metal Greymon is the very, very important one here. So material save 2, which is great. On play, this Digimon gains Rush for the turn. Then if you DigiXros 3 of your opponent's Digimon with a number of Devolution cards less than or equal to this Digimon cannot attack or block until the end of your opponent's next turn, which just makes it very easy to stun because you will have 3, and there are a lot of ways to get rid of sources, which is good. And it's DigiXros for 2 with Greymon and Male Bordramon, so you can get this down to a 3 cost. So 3 cost Rush is pretty good. Obviously, you have to get rid of 3 cards, and you don't inherently draw with this because of how DigiXros works, but this can, like, just a 3 cost Rush is very good, especially when, spoilers, we're going to have a tamer that sets us a 3 every turn anyways. And then there's Decker Greymon, which is good. It is a little clunky at times. You can either play it on play or Digi-Evolving, and this does have an armor perch too, which is kind of nice. Place 1 card with Blue Flame and it's trades from your hand or from underneath one of your tamers to the bottom of Digimon's evolution sources, and then if this Digimon has Decadramon in its evolution cards, one of your opponent's Digimon can attack or block until the end of the turn. So this is really good for just hard stunning something. So if your opponent's trying to play around playing 2 Digimon, they're just making 1 big stack, Decker Greymon will be fantastic. You just go into it. You do have to have a Decker somewhere to be able to go underneath it, but you can Digivolve for 4. You can Digivolve on top of a Metal Greymon for 2. There are reasons to do it, and then it's just a strong card there. Armor Purge too, just because why not? It's strong there, but you got to run a couple of these. They're not as great as obviously the Metal Greymon, and if you hard cast it, it's a 5 cost, which kind of stinks. But 5 cost to play something with Armor Purge that also gets rid of one of your opponent's cards or just stuns one of your opponent's cards outright is kind of good there. So, and then lastly, it's just the support cards. So as you can see, there's not a lot of cards in this archetype, but it is very all the cards I think are very, very good. So first is this tamer we've been alluding to earlier. It is a 4 cost. It sets your memory through at the beginning of your turn, and also your turn when you play Digimon with DigiXros requirements. By suspending this tamer, you can also place cards from underneath your tamers as sources. So that is very helpful. So you can recycle your saves and do stuff there. Then we've got Blazing Memory Boost, which is a heck of a card. It's a very, very interesting card. So reveal the top 6 cards of your deck. This is for 5. Add 2 cards with Blue Flare and their traits among them to your hand, and you may play 1 Kuriha among them without paying its memory cost. Place remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order, then place this card in your battle area. So, so pretty much this you pay for 5, and then from there you look at top 6 and you get your blue flares, which all of these cards have blue flares, even itself, even the Kuriha. So this lets you draw 2, and then if you see a Kuriha, you can play it as well, which is quite nice. Something else too is that the Kuriha is if you only see 2 blue flares and one of them is Kuriha, you have to add it to your hand. You can't play it based on the wording of the text. This could change from official, so I'll let you know if that changes. But if you only see 2 things, then you have to add Kuriha to your hand. You can't choose to not to and to choose to play it. Instead, you have to do it specifically. But Blazing Memory Boost turn 1, if you're able to hit your Kuriha off it and go off, you're probably feeling pretty good. It's such a swingy card. But it's fantastic, and then you get to just delay gain 2. So you run 4 of this always, and you just hope you win by just playing it off. Then there's just Plasma Decker Draw Launcher. This is not a blue flare, which is interesting because literally every other card in this archetype is. But when you use this card, your opponent's 2 or more Digimon play, reduce it by 2. Return more opponent's level 6 or higher Digimon to its owner's hand. This is just fine. I just say it's like part of the archetype by proxy. I wouldn't really run this card. If your opponent has 2 or more Digimon out in play, you're already taking advantage of all of your other stuff already. You don't need to have this like overcost kind of option card to do so. But I did want to mention it just because it is part of the archetype just by name. So that is all of the support for it. And then let's go to our example deck list. So here is my example deck list, and one card I didn't mention a second ago is the Cyberdramon, just because it's in the archetype, but it's a weird kind of support. It's just for 3 active from your hand for main. If you have a Digimon with blue flare and traits, by paying 3, you get to place this card underneath it, and then you get to unsuspend the Digimon. And also all turns when your Digimon has 2 or more Digimon, and when your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, this Digimon gets plus 1k DP. So it's a really interesting thing. It can also just win you the game if you swing with something and it just lives and you have 3 memory to keep it your turn. You can just use it and kind of go from there. But from there, just kind of, I would say, the generic stuff. So 4 of all of the good cards, the Greymon, the Decadramon, the Male Birdramon, the Galsmon, the Metal Greymon, and then 3 of the Decker Greymon, because it is a little bit clunkier and not as important to use, and kind of go from there. Also for the DigiXros, it doesn't necessarily say a blue Greymon, so I did add 2 of the security Greymon, just because you can play it for free off that. You could also put like the security attack +1 Greymon from the starter decks if you want to. There's a bunch of Greymons, obviously, that if you want to add them to your deck. This is just kind of like a bit of a kind of cheesy option for you, but it is kind of nice to be able to just put it in there and not really be dead in hand either. Like hard casting it for 5 is not the worst, not that I would do it, but if it hit off security, sometimes playing this for free just means you get an extra attack next turn, which means you can win. I was playing Cordramon for a little bit, and I might add it back in for a little bit too if Blue Comon is not added, just for extra draw from security. And it's just an extra body. This really doesn't do anything else but that. But just since we're just kind of like an aggressive deck, if your opponent's trying to chip back at us, being able to play this for free, draw 2 cards, and then swing with it next turn is very good. We just add Goblimon for this because you hard cast, you get a draw card. The cycle for this is really important because you do have to see your lines for it. So if you don't have Blue Comon, I would just say you go up to 4 of these Goblimons and just play 2 of the Modoku Betamons, and you'll be fine from there. And then also, Sora Joe is so good in this meta right now, being able to get rid of your opponent's sources, and just like, which is fantastic when they're trying to save their sources off their stuff. Being able to get rid of them is fantastic. It's one of the best ways to kind of remove and counter DigiXros, and there's just so many things that want to hard cast right now too, which means you get extra memory during your turn. And it is a tamer, so if you don't have the this is Kariha. It is going to be Kariha, even though it's Christopher in the dub. Kariha, if you don't have this out, you can save under a non-blue flare DigiXros version of something, so you can put it there. Other than that, I think that's pretty standard. We're running Strabimon to help us find our tamers if we really need it, because we usually really do, and some Lobomons because we are running tamers to help us finish the game there. Eggs are Upamons, and there's also the Baby Domon if you want a 5th egg. I never found a time when I needed to, but when attacking once per turn, if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon play, you get to draw 1, which is kind of nice. But I think Upamon's just better, especially since we are running Sorjo. There are some interaction points there, which is kind of nice. But that is the list. It's a little short and sweet, but I think is a strong list, and I want you guys to test it out. Let me know what you guys think about this video and what deck you want me to cover next for the BT10 meta, and that is going to be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.